Hey, okay, here's the third method. The first one we know was factoring. You learned that earlier in the year. The second method was the square root method, where we square root both sides, we can solve for x. In this method, the problems that are going to be given to you, you cannot factor. You cannot use the square root method, so this is the method that you got to figure out. In my mind, this is one of the harder methods from the four, but once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. Here. Okay. The idea to this method is we need to figure out what goes here at the end. It'll complete the square, meaning if I factor, the two parentheses are going to come out the same. It's going to make something square. We need to figure out what goes into this spot, though. Now, if we factor again, the two parentheses have to come out the same. So we know it's already x and x. Whatever we put into this spot is somehow going to give us this at the end, but it's also going to give us the 10x in the middle. We need to figure out what goes here in the parentheses. We know it's plus and plus. We need to get a positive 10x. It has to be the same. Good. It has to be 5 and 5. Yeah? 5x here is 5 and 5x there. That's going to give us 10x in the middle. So, x plus 5 squared. Thing is, we need to know what goes here on the end that'll make this all happen. It's got to be 25. That's how you complete the square. Okay, try that again. We need to complete the square. We need to figure out what goes here in the space. The parentheses have to come out the same. That way, you have something square. We know it's x and x again. We know the signs have to be minus and minus. We need to know what goes here. That'll give us the negative 8x in the middle. 4 and 4. Good. That means we have x minus 4 squared. This term here at the end, though, has to be 16. That is what's going to complete the square so that the parentheses come out the same. Okay, here, let's make that a little more challenging. Okay. The parentheses have to come out exactly the same. Something square. We need to know what goes here in the end. We know it's y and y. We know it's plus and plus. Okay, now, as tempting as it may be to say 3.5, trust me in this. As much as I tell you folks I hate fractions, it's the easier one to work with the further we go with this method. 7 halves. That is what goes there. Now, for those of you that don't see it, this is 7 halves y. That right there is also 7 halves y. That gives me 14 halves y, which is equal to 7y in the middle. So, I know some of you would just rather use the 3.5, but eventually, the more we do this and the more complicated the problem gets, you will see that the fraction is the better way to go. The number we add to complete the square has to be 49 over 4. Okay, we're going to actually use this now. Here's the problem. X to the second minus 4x minus 7 equals 0. Now, if you try to factor this, it's not going to happen. And we definitely cannot use the square root method right now. Okay, so we're going to use the completing the square method. In order to do that, we need a blank right there. That way we can start filling in the blank ourselves. So let's get rid of this 7. Leave the blank. We need to figure out what goes here now. If we can get it to where we have a square root like this, where it's something like this, squared, we can use the square root method on both sides. So we need to figure out what goes into this blank at the end so that these two parentheses come out the same. Something squared. We know it's x and x. The signs have to be minus and minus. these numbers here have to give you 4x. 2 and 2. That came out nice. Yeah? So, x minus 2 squared. That's the left-hand side. In order to do that, we need to figure out what goes into this blank. Plus 4. Is that okay? Now, here's the thing. It's an equation. Whatever you do to the left side, it has to be done on the right side. We added 4, we add 4 on this side. Now that we have it, x minus 2 squared is equal to 11, we can now use the square root method to solve. If I square root both sides, x minus 2 equals positive and negative radical 11. And then we just get x by itself, just like we did in the previous section. X equals 2 plus or minus radical 11. Two solutions. Now, it's not obvious that this is the answer, although you're okay with the square root method already because we did in the last section. Here, we're going to try it with a problem that we know we can factor. This problem is factorable. We know that we can find the answer easy. In fact, here, let's try it real quick. Solve for x. You got it? You should have had x equals negative 6 and negative 2. Yep, just use the factoring method. Okay, now, keep that in mind. We are going to use the completing the square method, and if we do this correctly, we're supposed to come up with that same answer. We're going to get a blank. That's our first step. Get a blank in that position. We're going to get rid of the 12. Now we have x to the second plus 8x equals negative 12. We need to figure out what goes into this space so that our two parentheses come out exactly the same. X and x. We need to get a positive 8x in the middle. The signs have to be plus and plus. The blank is going to give us the 8. Has to be the same. 4 and 4. So we have x plus 4 squared. In order to do that, we need to know what goes into this blank then. So, the number that goes into that blank then is 16. But if we do 16 on the left, yeah, we added 16 on the left, we have to keep the equation in balance. We're going to have to add 16 on the right. So, that gives us 4. Now we can use the square root method to solve. X plus 4 is equal to positive and negative 2. X equals negative 4 plus or minus 2. Let's do that separate. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. Negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. Same answer. Yeah, it's going to work. Yeah, you just got to keep all these little steps. You got to figure out what goes into this spot. You have to balance it out on the other side. You have to make sure that the parentheses are the same. All those little things. Okay, let's try a problem that you cannot factor. Okay, get a blank. Figure out what goes in the parentheses. Figure out what goes into the blank. Keep the equation in balance. Yeah, solve using the square root method. Try the problem. Okay, let's see. We need a blank here first. We need to get rid of the minus 2. We're going to add 2 to both sides. Okay, the parentheses have got to be the same. We need to know what goes into that blank. X and x. Plus and plus. 5 and 5. Good. This is what we had earlier. Yeah, right here. Yeah. Okay. This is going to be x plus 5 squared. So the blank then has to be 25. We're going to add 25 to both sides of the equation just to keep it in balance. Okay. Now we can use the square root method to solve. X plus 5 equals positive and negative radical 27. X equals negative 5 plus or minus radical 27. Is this okay? Yes, we need to simplify the radical 27. We can split that up. 9 and 3. Good. This is the solution we're looking for. Negative 5 plus or minus 3 radical 3. Okay, we're going to make this a little more challenging. I don't think you can factor this one. No, you can't. Okay. We are going to solve using completing the square. Try. Let's see where you go with it first. Okay, let's see. If I add 3 to both sides, that'll give me 3x squared minus 2x, have a blank, equals 3. We want the parentheses to be the same. Yeah, see, here's the problem. There's a 3 here, and there's no way you're going to get the same parentheses with a 3 there at the front. These first two terms is different from the previous ones. If you look at the original problem that we started with, it's possible to get x squared with x and x, but we can't do that with a 3. Let's try this again. If we can't do it with the 3, we need to somehow get rid of the 3 first. That is where we start. We need to divide everything by 3. I'll do it here too, even though it's a 0. Okay, so now we have x squared minus 2/3 x minus 1 is equal to 0. Now we could possibly do this. Actually, I'll tell you, you can. We need a blank here, just like we did before. Need to get rid of the minus 1. Okay, here's the tough part. We need to figure out what goes in the blank so that these parentheses come out exactly the same. X and x, minus and minus. These numbers somehow have to give me negative 2/3 x. 1/3 and 1/3. Is that okay? That'll give us the 2/3 in the middle. Therefore, here in the end has got to be plus 1/9. We're going to add 1/9 to both sides. See, if you went with the decimal, bad idea. So, 1/3 works. Okay, let's see. This is 9/9 plus 1/9. So, we have x minus 1/3 squared is equal to 10/9. Now we can use our square root method. We're going to square root both sides. So now we have x minus 1/3 equals plus and minus radical 10 over 3. Yeah, we can square root the 9. 10 we cannot though. Okay, just get x by itself now. Add 1/3 to both sides. X equals 1/3 plus and minus radical 10 over 3. If you want, we can combine them, make it a little easier. 1 plus or minus radical 10 all over 3. Same denominator. There. That is our solution. Let's try one more. Okay. Try again. we cannot have a coefficient there for x squared. Before we even go for the blank, we need to get rid of that 3. Okay, let's try. We're going to divide everything here by 3. Yeah, whatever you do to the left, you do to the right. So, x squared minus 4x. Oh, this comes out nice. Plus 1/3 is equal to 0. Okay, we can't factor this, so we're going to get the blank here, right here. Subtract 1/3 on both sides. We need to figure out what goes in the blank. This one turned out actually easy. X and x. Minus and minus. 2 and 2. So the blank then has to be 4. We're going to add 4 on both sides. Oh, what is that? Negative 1/3. Plus 12/3. So 11/3. Did I do that right? Okay. Square root both sides. X minus 2 equals positive and negative radical 11. Oh shoot, radical 3. Okay, we can have a radical in the denominator. Okay, multiply top and bottom by radical 3. So x minus 2 equals positive and negative radical 33/3. Did that right? 3. Yeah, okay. Okay, just add 2 to both sides. X equals 2 plus or minus radical 33. Oh, no, wait. Sorry. Over 3. There. The 3 is only the denominator for the radical. Okay. Hope to help. Don't worry. We'll go over more if you need. Try the problems. You have numbers 1 through 29. Odd. Skip the multiples of 3, though. Do all the odds, but skip the multiples of 3.